Hello, I'm Doug Crawford, Vice President of the Santa Barbara Navy League Board of Directors, here at the Jewel of the Pacific, the Santa Barbara Yacht Club, on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. We've got the honor of being here with Connie Los, President of the Santa Barbara Navy League since 1999.
Been a long lot of years.
And a growth from 35 members to 1,400 of the best members in the United States and around the world for the Santa Barbara Navy League.
Well, we certainly have an awesome membership here in Santa Barbara, Doug. We all obviously know how supportive our community is and how much they tend to come out when the ships hit town and the sailors hit the streets. We should be really proud of that.
The job for the board of directors that's going to be taking over here as you turn over the helm of this ship in March, the early part of March. The challenge for us is going to be to try to replicate the services not only to the people of Santa Barbara and to the members of the Navy League, but to the people and men and women, our best sons and daughters in the sea services. So what we're going to do now, Connie, is talk a little bit about this great year we've just had, 2005. I'd first like to just point out to everyone that the Santa Barbara Navy League won the Outstanding Council Award in 2004. In 2005, we are just getting ready to put together the Year in Review book that goes back to national headquarters.
So that we hope we do it again.
And that's the goal. And so now, if we could, Connie, would you let's start with the beginning of last year and just review for the audience, what are some of the things that the Santa Barbara Navy League did in terms of events?
Well, obviously, one of the most prominent ones that head down the State Street or the main street of Santa Barbara will be our Santa Barbara Navy League flags, which, as a matter of fact, flew last February and will be flying again this February the 27th through March 10th. And we're certainly proud of those because we're one of the first Navy Leagues in the country to come up with our own flag flying down the main street of their community. And it certainly is just a combination, if you will, about one of the huge achievements that our Navy League has achieved.
Well, recognition in this beautiful city for when our sailors come here and they know that we have flags that represent all aspects of the sea services. We hope that you enjoy watching them fly on our State Street here in February that Connie was just talking about. And let's talk about last February. What else did we participate in last February?
Well, Doug, one of the most incredible events that our Navy League, just a much more limited number of Navy League members go to every year, is the Blue Angels flight show in El Centro, where you really get a chance to have dinner with the Blue Angels. The next morning you have to, get up like at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and you have to board this bus, and you just have to drink a Bloody Mary while you're going out to the Navy facility where the Blue Angels fly. And it's just an absolutely, memorable event where a very limited number of people get to go every year. And our Santa Barbara Navy League takes a bus of about 50 people every year to this event where you actually go where their training ground is and watch the Blue Angels fly right over your head while you're having breakfast and coffee and Bloody Marys.
Just a few hundred feet over the deck, roaring right over you, inches apart, five planes traveling at huge speed. Just one of the most miraculous, thrilling, awe-inspiring things I've ever seen.
Well, and truthfully, one of the reasons this is such an incredible opportunity is because it's on their training grounds, and they don't have a tower, so they don't have the restrictions they have in other places when they're flying. So it really is quite the unique opportunity to be able to see them and then meet them after they finish flying and go over and have lunch with them and actually see them do some more takeoff and landings.
Then in March, we had a ship visit. This was the USS Denver. It was the ship that actually took the first Marines to Iraq, and is a troop carrier that carries Marines. The back of it folds down, allows troop carriers to drive out of it. We had a California Coast Venture Forum event in coordination with that, and a reception on board and tours. And again, it's a wonderful experience to be able to go on board these ships and meet these young men and women and the incredible work they do and the sacrifices they make. But it was really, really appreciated by, I think we had about 125 investors and executives to visit aboard the USS Denver, and they held a reception for us. We ate some of their food and truly enjoyed the camaraderie of spending a couple of hours with the Denver's crew. And then in May, we had the Coast Guard, the Admiral of the Coast Guard, Admiral Eldridge, come and speak with us and to one of the best turnout events that we've had at the Santa Barbara Maritime Museum. He was spectacular. He talked about the mission of the Coast Guard in this new post-2001 world, and he really did answer a lot of very tough questions regarding why we're there, what we're doing, how to protect ourselves in the future, and are they really on Mission Impossible, or do they have a way to help prevent terrorist attacks on our coastline? And I came away, and I believe the hundreds of people that were there also came away with a strong belief that our Santa Barbara Harbor and our central coast of California is very well protected because of the Coast Guard cutter Blackfin, which I'd also like to point out got more awards for best Coast Guardsman than any other ship in the Los Angeles region for the Coast Guard. So our hats off to them, and I really wish everyone here would be able to say hello to the Coast Guard people and thank them for what they're doing here in Santa Barbara.
You know, Doug, right along that same lines, I don't know that a lot of our Santa Barbara community is aware that the Santa Barbara Navy League Council has also adopted the Marine Safety Detachment group here in Santa Barbara, which is also an arm of the Coast Guard. And right after Admiral Eldridge left, we had the honor to take care of the men and women that served aboard the United States Coast Guard cutter Alert. And they came to Santa Barbara, and I'll tell you, it was just one of those awe-inspiring moments again when you see these young men and women have the opportunity to see Santa Barbara the way that we unfold Santa Barbara to them and offer our hospitality, open our homes, and really welcome them into your hearts, if you will.
So that was a Coast Guard visit by the largest cutter, I believe, that has ever visited Santa Barbara.
Absolutely.
And then we had a memorable event in, again, coordination, cooperation with the California Coast Venture Forum. They put on a forum at the Libero Theater and had speakers like the CEO from Raytheon and the founder of Kinko's and a number of other investors. But we also had the USS Lassen, the guided missile cruiser, here that weekend as well. And the city of Santa Barbara turned out and showed that crew as well a wonderful time while they were here visiting. I hope you're getting the sense that this Santa Barbara Navy League Council is extremely
keeps you busy.
Yeah. And I think that one of the first honors that I've had in attending the National Convention in Norfolk, Virginia was a real experience for me, a first-time experience that I expect to repeat. But Connie, why don't you talk a little bit about the reason for the National Convention and what was accomplished there?
Well, the National Navy League Convention is put on by our headquarters, which is located back in Arlington, Virginia. And twice a year, they get all of the Navy League councils abroad, all 330 of them that come together and participate, and will do presentations that are put on by everything from the Secretary of the Navy or the Chief of Naval Operations. They have Coast Guard presentations and really bring you up to date with what's going on with our military men and women and where we are with Iraq and where we are in this day and age, which obviously has changed so incredibly. I think you attended one of the events, didn't you, Doug? That was a pretty unique event.
I never felt so small as standing on the front deck of the USS Wisconsin, the battleship that was built near the end of World War II, but certainly a ship that had seen incredible action during World War II. And the honor of having a reception there and being spoken to by General Hagee, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and Vern Clark, the Chief of Naval Operations. And in this group of leaders of the Navy League from around the world, I definitely felt not only well protected, well represented, but a kindred spirit indeed.
Yeah. You know, another unique thing about that ship, Doug, that kind of fascinated me when we were going on a tour of it, while it's a museum, it's still a commissioned ship for the Navy.
It's ready to be deployed.
So that if they needed to deploy this ship, they could actually deploy this museum of a ship. It really is quite staggering to the mind when you think about it.
What amazed me so was the amount of planning and communication that took place to prepare, to inform us, to be able to send us out and do our job as emissaries for the Navy League of the United States and for our sea services to be able to go out and talk to our congressmen and to our city officials and to our people about the need for the recognition of the maritime policies that the Navy League supports, and that we are a maritime nation. We're not a small island, but our coastline right here in California, when you think of the thousands of miles.
It's our first line of defense.
And we're in a war in the world right now where our ships have been reduced down to less than 300 from over 600 ships. So there's an incredible transition and transformation that's taking place, and the Santa Barbara Navy League has been very engaged and involved in that. Before I talk a little bit more about that, though, I would like to talk about the granddaddy of all ship visits to Santa Barbara, one that has been being worked on by, gosh, probably 75 different board members over a 5-year period. More than 75. Today we have a board of about 25 people, and I think that I'd really appreciate the people in our coastline here to understand what went into that. Can you talk a minute about the Reagan and the major accomplishments of having that incredible warship here?
Well, I think if we could just back up just quickly for just a couple minutes and really look at the honor and the privilege that Santa Barbara has had in the relationship with Ronald Reagan before she became a USS ship. We've followed Ronald Reagan since she was being built back in Newport News, Virginia. We've had numerous board meetings that worked on the commissioning, that went back to Virginia and attended the commissioning from Santa Barbara. Once Ronald Reagan came around the horn and was home ported in San Diego, our board members from Santa Barbara went down to San Diego and put in numerous hours and months to make the home porting with the San Diego Navy League the success that it was. So obviously, where is the first place our great ship, our adopted ship, is going to stop? Where, Doug?
Santa Barbara.
And do you remember how much work went into that one? We could certainly ask your wife about that too.
Well, I hope to have the pleasure and honor of interviewing Karen Crawford here in a little bit, and we will be able to talk about that a bit. The Reagan, we will be doing more of coverage of the Reagan, and we are covering it on our website, which is SantaBarbaraNavyLeague.org or SBNL.org. Keeping update on that ship's deployment right now. Want you to know that the Ronnie Bears, Ty Warner donated 25,000 of them to the Santa Barbara Navy League to be able to get donations. This little bear now has been retired, making it even more valuable than when it was in the stores. So we have these and you're going to see them at Moby Dick's. Al has agreed to put a donation box out there for the Ronnie the Bear, and we encourage all of you to run down on Stearns Wharf, have a meal at Moby Dick's, and take home a Ronnie Bear and donate to the men and women of the USS Ronald Reagan.
Doug, that reminds me of some of the other projects that we've done along the way for the Ronald Reagan, including this, one of our first ideas before the commissioning that we did for the 4th of July. Can you imagine why the red, white, and blue here? But it says, someone on the USS Ronald Reagan loves me. So what we did is we did these for baby sizes, children's sizes, and ladies for sleep shirts. And actually, it's become a project by the Family Association in San Diego right now, which has engaged our Santa Barbara Navy League to come to San Diego once again and help them work on the deployment party for when the USS Ronald Reagan brings their family members home. So we have a number of items going on right now that Santa Barbara Navy League is assisting to work with this family association, including the pin that I wear. We've had these made in silver for the family association for them to be able to sell and to help fund the deployment homecoming for the sailors and the men and women of USS Ronald Reagan. So we're keeping busy.
The work goes on, and we are hearing from them on a regular basis. Godspeed to them in the tasks and the missions that they have ahead of them, and in oceans on the other side of the world from where we are here, sitting here today, and safe and peaceful in Santa Barbara.
And Doug, you know, right along that vein, I think that we really need to open up our arms to the community and say, you know what, if you are not a member of the Navy League, join the Navy League. It does make a difference. you can't join the Navy, you certainly can join the Navy League. And this is a way that you can help support these young men and women and show them how much you appreciate what they do for us.
And you can do that online at SantaBarbaraNavyLeague.org or SBNL.org, and you'll see a box for memberships. Click there and it'll take credit card information. Well, it's not as though we didn't do enough in 2005 with all of the ship visits and the national conventions and the Blue Angels and the flags and the ships and the Marine Safety Detachment and the Coast Guard visits. But in the last 2 months of the year, we had perhaps one of the most difficult tasks for a board of directors after we've had such dynamic leadership and been able to accomplish so much over these past 7 years, and that is to plan for Connie's retirement.
Retiring, Doug? I mean, retirement and Connie Loos just certainly don't go together. So I somehow believe that I'm not leaving Santa Barbara Navy League far behind, and I'm really, really looking forward to working with our upcoming president, Karen Crawford, and being there in the background and getting behind her and pushing her with the ships to come back to Santa Barbara and make all these great things happen for 2006. And as a matter of fact, I am going to stay engaged as past president of the Santa Barbara Navy League. And as I mentioned, I look forward to working with Karen and to possibly do some consulting so that we can financially move our Santa Barbara Navy League further. And so I'm looking for a fabulous 2006 year with a great board.
For 2006, we are looking forward to having new board members join us, and that succession plan, as part of it, has a March the 8th board reception that's being planned. And if you're a Navy League member and interested in joining our board of directors and meeting with our board of directors, I invite you to call our office, which is 879-1598, area code 805, and talk to Karen Crawford. We are also then wanting to remind you that we can't do it without you, that the Marines are counting on you, the Coast Guard, the Merchant Marines, the Navy League is made up of all of those in addition to the Navy. And in this Pacific Southwest region that we're in, it is the largest region for the Navy League in the world, and very understandably so. We have San Diego and all the ships that are based there. We have Los Angeles, we have Santa Barbara, and our Navy League is amongst the biggest of all of those. So we invite you to join us in making sure that our future is secure and that the future of our nation's best sons and daughters are also secure, because they're being helped and their families are being helped by what you can do for them through the Santa Barbara Navy League. And Connie, we'll look forward to seeing you this evening.
Thank you. And we look forward to acquiring a lot of new members out there and a lot of new membership that's going to propel Karen Crawford even further in 2006.
And the rest of the board as well. Thank you, Connie. The 2005 year in review had one very, very special event, and that was when the United States Ronald Reagan sailed into this beautiful harbor right behind us here and stayed here for 4 days. And during that 4 days, their people came on shore, our people went on the ship, and we had a wonderful series of events that will always be remembered. I was told by Captain Terry Kraft, the new CO of the ship, when I was down there for the change of command, that the one thing that he heard more often from all of his people, and the reason that the morale was so good on the USS Ronald Reagan, was because of the trip that they had to Santa Barbara and the wonderful reception that they received from our members and from the city as a whole. It started Friday evening.
Friday night was a wonderful evening. It was an event that was called Old Fiesta Party Night, and it was a partnership between the Carriage and Western Arts Museum with the Old Spanish Days Committee and the Santa Barbara Navy League. Together, we had a wonderful, wonderful party. We had a Western band. We had 300 attendees who were Santa Barbara community members, and we had about 100 sailors. And the best part for the sailors was when the Carriage Museum allowed the sailors to be picked up from the ship and brought to the Carriage Museum by stagecoach. It was great.
And then on Saturday morning, we got up and take me out to the ball game with baseball games between the fire department and two teams from the USS Ronald Reagan and a team from the Coast Guard cutter Blackfin and MSD. And it was a day full of baseball. It was a lot of fun. Followed in the evening by
the Taste of Santa Barbara. There we went on board ship, the USS Ronald Reagan. We had more than 500 community members going on board to taste wines and foods from 20 restaurants and 20 wineries. It was a fantastic evening. We had a great band. We danced the evening, got tours of the ship that were very special, places that most civilians never get to see. Everyone.
Sunday was a wonderful day as well. Tea time at the Sandpiper, thanks to Ty Warner's donation and a number of hosts and sponsors that we had. But they had a wonderful game of golf, and then followed not only that, but sailors could opt to either go up to the Reagan Ranch or to the Reagan Library or for a wine tour. Some of them even got to take in a polo match at the polo grounds with Andy Bush and got to have a beer with him. And Karen, why don't you tell us about Sunday evening on board the ship?
Well, then everybody gathered together again off the pier, and we went on board the USS Ronald Reagan for the Taste of Freedom. This particular party was very special because the ship was our host. So we had 500 plus civilians, again, going to the event and enjoying the taste of the USS Ronald Reagan's food. It was excellent, and the whole evening was just memorable.
And then Monday morning, it was sad for all of us that as we watched it sail out of sight, because we knew where they were headed. They were headed into harm's way. But they left here with about 150 of Santa Barbara's residents and Air Pac Squadron, Sea Cadets, and wonderful group of people that had the opportunity to sail to San Diego and experience a highline experience, a transfer of ammunitions and people from one ship to another at sea as they were cruising. And I was told by everyone that attended that it was a remarkable logistics event that they saw take place, and it finished 4 hours early without an incident, flawless operation. Congratulations to the men and women of the USS Ronald Reagan for that. And until we see you again, we pray that you will be in God's keeping and that you will have fair winds and following seas until that time.
Greetings, Connie and Santa Barbara Navy League from the bridge of the USS Ronald Reagan. I just wanted to pass our greetings, thanks, and best wishes to you as we head across the Pacific on our first operational deployment in support of the global war on terrorism. You have been such an integral part of this ship. From the time the ship was built, to our outfitting, to our commissioning, to coming around the Horn, to our eventual Santa Barbara homecoming, which is still such a highlight for everyone on this crew who got to participate in that great event. You have been such an integral part of this crew. It's impossible to walk around this ship and not be reminded of you and the Santa Barbara Navy League in some way, thanks to all the things you have done to turn this from a standard Navy issue ship to a ship that honors the legacy of Ronald Reagan in the spirit of the Navy League. And I think that's what makes things so special here on Ronald Reagan since I got here. I enjoyed meeting you when you came down for my change of command, which definitely made that a much more special moment for me to have you and some of your team down here. And I think what's most special about you and what I'll remember is you're a person that always put our sailors first on this ship. You cared about Ronald Reagan, yes, but you also cared about our sailors embarked and taking care of them. And that spirit of caring for our sailors and our Navy, I know, will continue along with you wherever you go. And I think Norfolk, Virginia Beach area is going to be a very lucky place to get you and someone of your talents. And I know we're lucky, and we thank you for all the efforts of you and the outstanding Santa Barbara Navy League. Connie, we wish you fair winds and following seas. Thanks.
We're here this evening at the Military Ball 2005 with Senator Bob Dole and Connie Los, President of the Santa Barbara Navy League. We'd very much like to ask you, Senator, what your background was militarily and what you might be able to tell our audience about the experience that you had and the meaning of Veterans Day to you.
Well, it means a lot to me. I've had a lot of opportunities in my lifetime, a lot of plaques and titles, but I think the one I'm most proud of is, probably as you are, the title of veteran. The fact that I wore my country's uniform as millions of others did and have since. So it's a very special day for all of us.
thank you. The Santa Barbara Navy League is the largest Navy league in
Is that right?
the world without a port.
Without a port.
And it has a lot to do with the work that Connie Los has done.
I mean, how many members do you have?
About 1,500.
1,500.
And we're not a port.
I know. Yeah, it's not bad. If you had a port, you'd probably be 15,000.
We might work on it.
Yeah.
We had the pleasure 4 weeks ago of being in the Senate building for an honor. The Navy League of the United States was honoring Senator Warren, Virginia, and we had the pleasure to be able to stand.
He's an old Navy guy. Senator
Yes, sir.
Warren, yeah.
Navy, and
Well, SECNAV was
Secretary,
presenting him with an award.
And he was
Gordon
Sec-
England.
Oh, oh.
and he had been SECNAV at one time.
And to a
tell you what.
former SECNAV, that was interesting because I never knew that
yeah.
Honorable Gordon England had been.
I saw him just last Thursday. I was up to see Senator Warren, introduce him to someone, but he's about 79 now, so he's on a late. Got into World War II a little late, but he was still a World War II veteran.
Right.
But I think some people just take this, day as another holiday and don't give much pause about what it's really about, which is unfortunate. It's a day off as far as they see it, but I think the veterans and their families, it's a special day.
Well, I kind of think that today, more than ever, that we really recognize and
think so,
honor
yeah.
those men and women in uniform. I really hope that, and I think that we try to bring that to the forefront and make that work,
I
make that
think some
happen.
people make an effort. I was in the airport. I think at least 2 or 3 people thanked me, for my service. Thanks for remembered on Veterans Day. So there, people are thinking about it.
Well, Santa Barbara is not necessarily what you would call pro-military, but I'll tell you, when our ships come in and our veterans get out on the street, it's the most red, white, and blue town you could imagine, and we're very pleased. It's quite an honor to have you here on
Yeah,
Veterans Day weekend.
It's
a
not a
great
bad.
American.
Santa Barbara's not a bad little place, huh? Don't tell anybody about it, though, right? They
Well,
wanna
I
move
used
here.
to live in your state.
In Kansas.
Yes,
Where?
I lived in Prairie Village.
Oh, that's good Republican.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
God
Thank
bless
you for being here.
Good evening, Connie, and the assembled multitudes there. Admiral Mike Miller, and I'd like to add my congratulations to your very successful tenure as the leader of the Santa Barbara Navy League. It comes as no surprise to me as we steam through the Coral Sea that the history of this ship and this Navy is enhanced by the partnership that we've had with the Navy Leagues around the world, and none is more generous and has been a greater benefactor to this ship. Connie, it's due to all of your charm and wit and your constant persistence. We all admire you and we salute you for a job extremely well done. The Ronald Reagan is forever in your debt. Thanks again.